First on the agenda will be the pledge led by Board Member Tiffany Johnson tonight. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. All right. Anybody have anything on the agenda they want to change or talk about? Okay. No, what about the consent agenda? Okay. We move on down to number 7. Dr. Anthony, you're going to give us a report on substitutes.
You have your packet, and the first area we're going to look at is in your right-hand side. We're going to look at the PowerPoint presentation, and then on the left are some of the hard-to-fill schools so that you can see some of the data. So start with that. Okay, so on your second page, you see some data that I think is very relevant. For August and September, we're at a 90% fill rate with both months combined. And then I think it's also important for us to have the perspective of not only how many absences we have, but also the time that they're making the calls to Advantage to get the positions filled. And you'll see on the far right column the percentage of what they call ASAP absences. That's absences that are made early morning. So it kind of broke that down so you could see the calls that are made after midnight, the calls after 6, 7, and 8 a.m. And those tend to be the ones that are harder to fill because just of the nature, people have already taken calls or those subs already have plans for the day. So if the calls are made earlier, they're able to fill those for that trend, and then you can see that afterwards. Still some challenges with Fridays, as you can see on the charts, but I thought that was kind of helpful for you to see the trends as the numbers increase, also in the second column for total absences. The second sheet is a kind of a picture graph of the rate percentage that's filled for August at 94%. And you can see the trends were usually around in the 100s, some a little bit higher in August. Then we go to the third sheet, and then you see the numbers for September. And you can see how the numbers have gone up in September. Again, still some challenges there on Fridays. Again, the calls made after midnight, especially 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., tend to be the ones that are not being filled. And for the month of September, as you see on the next sheet, is the fill rate is at 87%. This week's projection for the first week in October, according to the rate, is in the 90s. So we're good for this week, but there have been some challenges on that. One of the other items that we want to look at on the next sheet are week by week percentages being filled. So you can kind of see the ratios on that filled to unfilled. Again, week by week, so you can see the report instead of day by day. And then the next sheet is the overall of 90% fill rate. I think it was like 90.4% fill rate. When you see on the charts NSR, no subs required, that kind of let you know their acronym that they use in their charts. But Advantage really has been a pleasure to work with. I can tell you it's made my life very easy. Janet Lee and her crew, who were with us originally a long time ago, they've been very easy to work with, and they're continuing to work on their recruitment and their training of our subs. And then they have noticed, so in the left side of your packet, they've noticed some of our harder to fill schools. And so what they're doing is they're talking to their substitutes, and they're right at about 600, which is where we were last year with PESG. They're talking to their substitutes and trying to see if they may entice them to go to those hard-to-fill schools, and they have some current incentives that you'll see at the bottom of your sheet on monthly bonus programs and then even offering a referral bonus program for those hard-to-fill schools. So kind of looking at that data, again, in your left-hand side, you'll see the hard-to-fill schools. You'll see patterns. Sometimes it's through the week on some of the harder to fill, sometimes Tuesdays, but mostly Fridays are our big request days.
This is classified and certified.
This is. That's right. Anyone that their job requires a substitute, such as a CDC or a behavior EA, in addition to our teachers, they're listed on this count.
And when they wait till after 8 a.m., excuse me, when they wait till after 8 a.m., I'm assuming most of the available subs have already taken a job maybe in another county or work?
Yes, and I was looking at each individual school, and I know sometimes they're able to get a half-day sub and continue their phone calling out. They do have several people making their calls after, the 5 o'clock mark in the mornings, but that becomes a challenge. And then, of course, in this season, Janet has said, just like the teachers have been sick, we've had several substitutes to be sick with the colds and the sinuses and a few cases of flu here and there. So they face the same challenges that we do, but they're really working hard to pull in more people. We've had a great relationship with them, and we've been hiring some of their people to fill some of our interims and some of our vacancies. And, we want to continue this positive partnership, and they're very good about giving us additional feedback resources, easy to work with, easy to train, quick turnaround, getting information back to us that we need. So we appreciate that. You can call them, and then within an hour or two, they'll have the answers for you that you need.
Dr. Anthony, a couple of questions. In our prior contract, before we went back to Advantage, there was an agreement in the contract that if the fill rate didn't hit a certain level, that the staffing company was subject to penalties.
That's right.
Penalties.
With the former one, we had the 7 o'clock at 90%.
Okay, 7 o'clock at 90%. That was
With the former one, not this one. The one that the board selected when they went with Advantage did not have that requirement of a 90% fill rate.
So we didn't hold them accountable like we did the other service for any.
Well, there was two
specified amount of
packages
fill
with
rate.
PESG. There was a package that you could get the 90% fill rate guarantee for 7 a.m. At that point at 7 a.m. And then PESG had another package. When that was voted on, I guess it would have been probably now 4 years ago, the package that was selected from PSG was the Premier package, which was the 90% guarantee at 7. So I went also back, I was telling Ms. Ruck, I went back to look at PSG's rates last year, very similar to where we are now, even though we have a different company. The typical percentage rate trying to get at 90% and holding the line on that percentage. So with this time of year, we were right in line with where we were in 2017 and 2018.
Okay, so PESG then, did you specifically look at, because this was the first full month we've had in September and the fill rate was 87%, were you able to look at the same statistics on PESG?
Yes.
And what was their fill rate for September?
It was right at the same amount for August and September because I pulled 2017 and 2018. So we were right on mark with both months for August and September with where we were last year and with the same number of substitutes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This question I got.
People calling in after 8 a.m. What's the reason for that?
Oftentimes they mark sick self or sick child.
I guess.
These are not their personal days that they're taking. They're reporting that they are sick, and then they're reporting that to their supervisor.
Waiting for 8 o'clock, right?
Correct.
That's school.
Majority, if you're doing elementary, anywhere from 7:30 to 7:45 would be their time to arrive.
In your opinion, do you think it's right to call it 8 o'clock?
Well,
Not gonna show up?
Absolutely not. And that's a conversation for the principals to have with their employees, and that's the conversation they're having with them, because they have to know who is going to be in their building and if their rooms are staffed, so that they can make sure that they do, have an adult with each set of students.
You'd know later off that you know that they'll work.
Absolutely. Is that a trend in,
Certain schools, or is that just kind of a little spotty throughout our district?
Yeah, I would say across the district, the pattern is, and you can look at the numbers, you can see the days. Days of the week tend to be the driving force on Fridays. If their personal days have not been approved, then, oftentimes you may see more call-ins that morning.
I see that this is more of a problem with our employees than it is with our substitute company here.
That is correct. That's what all of my research pulling out was showing, that if you're looking at anything 6, 7, or 8, that's too late to have that expectation that they're going to be able to fill and have them there on time.
So I think we probably need to be looking at policy on this and see what we can do for these people that's abusing us after 8 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't believe somebody don't know that they're not going to make it to work till 8 o'clock.
Anyone else? Thank you, Dr. Anthony. All right, Mr. Spurlock, let's move on to the grant for voluntary pre-K program.
Yeah, grant for voluntary pre-K program, tab 2. Voluntary pre-K grant is used to partially fund our 15 voluntary pre-K programs that are housed on 12 of our elementary schools. I know the 12 schools are in the Smyrna-Laverne area of Rutherford County, and our area that has the highest need. All classrooms are at capacity, which is 20 students per class, with more than 90% of the students and families served qualifying for our basic, based on household incomes at or below the poverty level. The program is designed to reach Rutherford County's at-risk early learners. The funding from the grant is used to fund pre-K staffing needs, along with typical supplies and curriculum materials needed for best practices to our pre-K classrooms. Additionally, we have purchased the ESGI, an online assessment tool that will be used to monitor the progress and the growth across the classrooms. Teachers will be able to compare data and communicate areas of concern or strengths in each of their classrooms based on this data. And in this way, we can see how this is impacting our kids. I think prior to this, we haven't had any kind of accountability per se. Is that correct, Dr. Sullivan?
Not a whole lot. So this gives us a tool that we really haven't had in the past.
And it's not like we're trying to, what we're trying to do is see if this is actually making an impact that will show up later on.
Okay. Any questions?
How long this grant is going to, is it for the duration?
We do have the person here that will know this. Ms. Jamie Hubbard, our pre-K specialist.
Hey, the grant is year to year. So we have a grant writing team, myself and 2 teachers. And prior to this year, it was myself as a teacher and 2 other teachers and Miss Linda Pritchard, who I took the place of. And we prepare that starting usually in February. It has a due date we turn in, so it's year to year, the way that works. And go ahead, sorry.
I'm sorry. So that will roll into kindergarten and everything, so you'll have the assessments from the...
Yes, so ESGI, that is an online tool, and it's there forever. So I use it in my classroom, and several of our pre-K teachers have used it just sporadically, not sporadically and not continually, but sporadic as in which schools used it. And I loved it as a classroom teacher because you can create your own assessments. And in the past, the pre-K, we just haven't, our PLCs haven't looked like what I feel like Rutherford County wanted our PLCs to look like, because we're at all different schools And when we came together, there's a lot of stuff that needed to be gone over, and we weren't assessing the same. So this puts it where it's all the same. I can see the data from all 15 classrooms, and then that data can follow the student to kindergarten. So it wouldn't, like, the teacher could pull it, I guess, and make sure that the kindergarten teacher is aware of that. So it's a phenomenal tool. Yeah.
So are they assessing on sight words? Are they doing something?
Ours are,
Are they-
we have Tennessee Early Learning Standards, so they align with kindergarten standards. And this year, of course, with the district rolling out the essential standards for across the board, I lined our pre-K standards up with kindergarten, and they are exactly lined up, unless, like in our book, it would say this standard doesn't start until kindergarten, but for the most part, we lined them right up. So it would be number recognition, decomposing numbers to 5, letter ID, vowel and consonant sounds, all of those things. And what's fantastic, again, about ESGI is that what assessments were not there that were specific to the needs of our district, we created them. And in our first PLC, we made sure that all of the teachers could pull up the data, they had their class list entered, and we played with it so they could get used to it. And so this Friday, all of that has to be done and uploaded to me, so I'll be able to look at it over fall break and kind of make sure everybody's on target for what they're supposed to be doing.
How many years have we participated as a district?
In pre-K altogether, I tried to do the math on that, and I emailed Miss Linda about that. I was in the pre-K classroom 13 years, and if I remember correctly, we had it about 2 before I started it. So at least 15 years.
It's been a while.
And our amount that we got this year is very similar to last year. If you'll recall, 2 years ago, we were granted enough to add 2 classrooms. And the year before that, we added 1 classroom. This year, we kind of just stayed the same. We received a little bit less, but we were still able to maintain our 15 classrooms. And the state has some control over if they take a classroom away from you or, that kind of thing. But because we are at 90% free and reduced lunch, for lack of better terms, all the time, we're pretty much set on keeping our 15, as long as you guys still love us.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we always love you.
Okay.
But, money's always an issue. And we always know that they give us the money, and then they may not give us the money the next time.
right. So yeah, usually we find that out the May before. So this year we kind of knew that we had less going in, but I also knew that I really wanted us to be assessing the same across the board. I just think that is so important, and so that can continue on with them, and we can see what we're really doing, because when you have 12 different schools, 15 different classrooms, teachers look different when they're across the hall from each other, much less being across the district. So that's the first step in getting us all online to where we need to be on target. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Number 9, ESL extended contract.
Number 9, the ESL extended contract found on tab 3. The ESL department will be conducting an after-school extended day program at Smyrna High School, funded completely with Title III funds. These funds will provide 2 teachers extended contracts. The schedule for the extended school day will run for both semesters, Monday through Wednesday from 3:45 to 6:15. Each teacher will receive $22 per hour for their services, and they also are teachers at Smyrna High School. And I think they've had a great success with this program. Did they help me correct me if I'm wrong, but they all graduated, is that
Right,
correct?
last year, everyone that was participated had the 100% graduation.
Any questions? All right, let's move along to the WellNet service.
All right, WellNet service agreement found on tab 4. This agreement is part of the CDC Healthy Students Grant obtained by Coordinated School Health. It will provide physical education software to all the district PE and wellness teachers, so they can track the activity of our CDC students, which also meets our requirement for activity by the state.
Questions or comments on it? Okay, number 11.
All right, number 11, renewal of Stellar Therapy Services for Medicaid reimbursement contract found on tab 5. This contract allows us to recoup some of the money we spend providing nursing services to students receiving Medicaid. It was originally approved by the board at the April 19, 2018 board meeting. As seen in the attached end-of-year report for the 18-19 school year, we see $11,241.55 was reimbursed to Rutherford County Schools for the nursing services. We hope to increase that amount several times this year as we have become familiar with the process. You like that, Mr. Beaudry, don't you? Familiar with the process.
Okay, questions? Okay, number 12.
Our number 12 is our facility use approved for exemption pursuant to Board Policy 3.206, public education schools and institutions, post-secondary education institutions, private universities and colleges, governmental entities or agencies that provide benefits to the Rutherford County school system or have an in-kind relationship approved by the Director of Schools may request the Board of Education to allow an exemption from the use of facilities fee, which the board may allow or deny based on the details of the specific request. As you can see there, we have several there listed.
Okay, questions on that? Okay, let's move on to facilities.
All right, facilities found on tab 6, Rocky Fork Middle / Elementary. The plat for the Rocky Fork Schools campus was recorded on June of 2018. However, the land was not deeded at that time. The legal descriptions have been submitted to Jeff Reed's office, and he has prepared a quitclaim deed to transfer the property to the town of Smyrna. The attached colored drawing shows the land being deeded. The roadways are in pink is a normal transfer. The land in blue and small silvers of land that are unusable by Rutherford County Schools and will be just something we have to maintain. It was agreed upon by the former County Mayor Burgess and former Town Manager Harry Gill to transfer the property to the city. The city has agreements with adjacent land owners on Rocky Fork Road for additional land donations for the purpose of building a fire hall.
Okay. Be nice to have that there. Any comments, questions? Okay, financial matters.
All right, financial matters found on tab 7. Riverdale High School baseball field surfacing project. Riverdale High School baseball boosters wants to replace a grass baseball field with turf. This project will be funded 100% through the Riverdale High School Baseball Booster Club with no county funds utilized. The project will be funded with unsecured loan from First Bank that will be issued to the Baseball Booster Club, as well as funds on hand that the Booster Club has raised from contributions to date. B, the loan will be paid for entirely by the future Booster Club fundraisers and pledges of local businesses and individuals that have been secured by the Booster Club. The Booster Club will maintain a debt-sinking fund at First Bank to service the future payments of the loan. C, once the project for the turf is approved by the school board's purchasing department will release a formal bid request for the project based on the specifications as outlined in the written request of the Booster Club. The sealed bids will be opened at the central office a week later. It is stressed that the Booster Club's bid and the school purchasing department is only facilitating the bid process as the turf project becomes a donated school asset at the end of the construction. Bid to be awarded to the lowest and best proposal that meets the bid specifications. D, included in this packet is the Booster Club detailed turf project proposal along with supporting documentations covering pledges received for the project loan payments. Booster Club financials, proposed financing of the project, minutes of the Booster Club approving the turf project, and a detailed takeoff quote of the project that will be utilized to build the project bid specifications from. E, Riverdale High School and Riverdale baseball boosters will be Riverdale High School and Riverdale baseball boosters will have all responsibility for future field replacement, maintenance, and repair.
Any questions?
And good to see you, Coach Messer. This is the entire field? That's okay. Is this the entire field or the infield?
that. So just financially, that's what we're at, and all the play happens on the infield, so that's where all our money is really sunk into when we have recurring costs every year, so that was the kind of thought process behind it.
Well, I think, first of all, the next thing, as you are aware, is softball. In the two turf fields that the board has allowed so far for football, we did make it very clear, and I see it's sort of, it's here in E. I don't know if it's expressed exactly like I like it or not, but it's here in E. But the money saved on taking care of your infield will drop considerably, I would think, because you don't have grass to cut and dirt to rake and all that kind of stuff, and all those things that's in your all's field is in absolutely stunningly beautiful shape, by the way, but I'm sure you already know that. But anyway, that money saved, it needs to be saved, because that's going to have to be replaced, all right? And I won't be here, and maybe nobody up here will be here, and you may not be there, but somebody's going to have to have that money in 8, 10, maybe 12 years. And
Also, we put into our infield per year that our booster club pays. So that money for the maturation of the loan for the 6 or 7 years will make that turf payment. Once that turf payment is canceled, then that money will then go into a savings account for sustainability and replacement turf at the end of the 12, 13, 14 years of the turf, of the life of the turf.
okay, I appreciate that. I acted like nobody was going to be here. Obviously, I don't know, but Ms. Michaels will be here. Okay, without question, and she never forgets anything. So she's going to remember what you and both have said. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I have a few questions. It says in E that Riverdale High School and Riverdale baseball boosters will be responsible for the field, right? So replacement. That seems like unique language from what we've just covered or what we've just done with football and other schools. What's the balance there? To me, it seems like the booster club should be fully responsible.
The booster club is 100% responsible for it. It probably was my mistake because with it being county property after it's done, I just maybe attached Riverdale High School on there, just kind of, in kind of thinking that it was county property. So Riverdale High School itself will not have any, per se, responsibility for helping our field maintain. It'll fall all on the 501(c)(3) boosters that we currently do right now. So sorry about that. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. I appreciate clearing it up.
Yeah.
The other question I have is I think it's point C, where the bid process will begin, but it's clear that the board will not be participating in any of that per the language in what we're reading here. So that would all be on you. At some point, Mr. Spurlock, will they bring that back to us?
Actually, they won't, and I'll let Mr. Beaudry tell you why.
Speaking with Sarah on this, as we were developing this and working with both the baseball boosters and the softball boosters with these projects, this is going to be their project. Of course, at the end of the day, it becomes our asset.
Right.
So the board has a vested interest in making sure what is being presented is what gets installed, and it's a quality product. So with that said, even though there's no county funds to construct this, we want to make sure of the end product. So with that said, Ms. Page and I developed this to say, okay, we are going to, based on the bid specifications that the Booster Club wants, we will prepare a request for proposal and put that out to numerous turf producers, and so they can do a sealed bid, which will be opened here publicly. And that way we can verify what this board approves is going to be what comes out of that bid package.
Okay.
And so basically you're approving the project, but the Booster Club will award it to the lowest and best bidder, since it is their bid.
Okay. And will engineering and construction oversee the project?
In this particular situation, we're kind of like a consultant. they're not used to, the booster club and the baseball team are not used to bidding projects and dealing with bonds and all the things that go with it. So we're kind of a consultant, unpaid consultant, and then we typically are slightly involved. I got involved with Oakland's football field just briefly, we knew those folks, so we kind of had a trust factor there, but to be able to help, there's some things that we can do to help offset, defer some funds, like the city with the Oakland project, they were going to have to spend $3,000 to $4,000 for a certified TDEC stormwater inspector. Well, I'm a TDEC certified stormwater inspector, so to defer that cost, we did those inspections at no cost to the school. And $3,000 is, maybe an interest payment for this year, so it's a lot of money. So we'll perform those same kind of things for Riverdale. And we do that for all, no matter what it is, we do those same things for everybody. So the answer to your question is yes, we will be involved limitedly, just to ensure that they get what they pay for and we get what we pay for.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. I have a couple of questions for Mr. Bodery, if I may.
I got one question. Coach Messer, do we have an estimated cost of this project?
I work with, this is Michael Fear and Fred Howe and Ben Weatherford from First Bank. They're providing the loan, and we've been working with them, and 2 of them are Riverdale graduates, so, but we've been working with them with the numbers, and we do have kind of we feel like a solid number that we're working off of, and the number that they've agreed to. Do you want me to say the number out loud?
He's got it.
Okay.
Yes. For the baseball project,
The project is going to be $256,698.66. That includes a quote, and once again, that's just a takeoff quote, of $249,222, and then the surety bond, project completion bond that we're going to require, once again, to protect the taxpayers as the construction project's going along, plus the booster club. It makes sense to protect them during the construction phase for whoever gets the construction project. That's included in the $256,698.66 takeoff, the estimate. Now, of course, we also are, I've worked with both booster clubs to require a 10% contingency for any overages when the bid is released.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Moore?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Bodery, the RFP process and the whole sealed bid process, that was not something, if I'm not mistaken, that we requested of the 2 previous fields that we installed. Is that correct? Okay. They did? Okay. And I know you and I had spoken that there were a couple things then in this project that we kind of put into place to tighten up the process for these requests. Can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
my hope is to use, if this board approves this, we've already got a couple more schools looking at this for football fields, so the hope would be that we could use this as a template going forward if the board likes what they're seeing tonight.
Okay, so I think that really was my question, is that to be sure that if it's agreed, this is the way we're going to do it, that we are going to have these same requirements and criteria have to be satisfied by any other schools or fields going forward. Thank you.
Anyone else?
One thing that we discussed with the 2 football fields was they were going to sell advertising. As a matter of fact, they had to come through with them and show us they had the money and so forth, and pledges and et cetera, for the future. And I don't, there's no mention here, I don't think, of how's the booster club going to, are they going to do that, or do we know?
Included in the packet, good question, sir. And it was, the booster club included in their packet, their submission, there's a breakdown of everyone that is pledging all the way down to the bottom line, what they need for.
Rotary, let me interrupt you. I don't think that's on online. That's why I asked if you.
I'm sorry,
copies
yes.
for everybody.
I apologize.
It's not in the board's agenda anywhere as an attachment.
I will get this to you folks tonight.
Yes, sir, please.
Breakdown. So the last 3 months, that's been my life. I've gone out and just been face to face with people, and Coach Bingham's done the same thing. We currently, to date, baseball has $217,500 raised from sponsors in the community, and then minus the total of the 256 plus the interest and that's how we came up with our booster club contribution of that $13,000 to $14,000 per year. We had to make all those numbers match, but so we do have $217,500 raised in pledges over 5 years. Kind of set it up the same way that Oakland and Blackman has gone about business. So, and Coach Bingham, when you talk to her, she's done the same thing with a few of her people as well.
As your principal can tell you there, and other principals also, and I'm not saying this is in this case, okay? But this board is very careful. People come and they want to do big projects, and fine, and that's wonderful, and they want to help and they want to absorb all the cost. All that is terrific. But they also leave. And the same booster club that you're talking about here is not going to be your booster club 5 years from now, right? They're not going to be. It'll be other, hopefully, very dedicated people. And I'm just saying that we've had a number of instances. I mean, very, very recently, and I suggest that you already know exactly what I'm talking about, where people graduate and the booster club loses interest in the program or whatever, and you don't want that to happen because they're going to be obligated for this forever, really, as replacement. So just so everybody understands and it's written down, we'll be all right, I think.
My goal is to keep going and trying to get, people in the community to keep buying in, but I'm really exhausted right now. Those 3 months have really got me, so but our goal over the next 5 years is just to continue to raise the money and get it all paid for, as long as there's willing people in the community.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'll just make a general comment that I appreciate your efforts in doing this, and I hope same way with the girls. I guess probably really only question I've got, do you have somebody guaranteeing all this? Yeah. I know they're providing you the money. Okay. Don't have a problem with it at all.
Okay. It looks like this is for the softball boosters. That's exactly the same, as written up exactly the same.
Calls.
About $40,000 that we're going to dedicate towards this project, and our total is different. It's $138,666. I'm sure Doug knows the answer.
Give us was it 134, 746.66 with the bond?
Yes, sir. The takeoff is $134,746.66. That includes the quote of $130,822 for the turf project and the surety bond estimate for the project of $3,924.66.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions on softball?
Coach Bingham, this is only also for the infield as well in softball? Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, let's move on to the Safe School Grant.
Yeah, the 2019-20 General Purpose School Amendment Fund 141, the Safe School Grant. State Department of Education has approved the fiscal year 1920 Safe Schools Grant application that was approved by the Rutherford County School Board and submitted by the school system. The funding is for both payroll and non-payroll related grant activities with the goal of enhancing safety in all Rutherford County public school facilities.
Any questions? Comments on that? Okay. Richard Segal Foundation donation.
All right, Richard Segal Foundation donations. Richard Segal Foundation has graciously provided the Rutherford County School System with 2 donations totaling $16,000 to fund walking track capital expenditures at Rocky Fork Elementary School, as well as funding for a Go Noodle online activity subscription for student health programs.
How many of those we have now? Walking tracks.
I asked that today. Was it 12? Okay, so we're 20,
Middle schools.
so maybe about 28, maybe 20, somewhere between
It's
28
quite
and
a
30.
few, it's a bunch. Jenna's done she corrals them every year, getting money for 3 or 4 tracks.
And my second question was, why were only 2 middle schools?
And I couldn't answer that question, and Jenna was gone before I got back there, so I'll have to ask her. She gets the money and we go build them for her, so.
Well, that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm, it is a good thing.
It's in the right direction.
Okay, joint resolution.
Yeah, the joint resolution to support the Tennessee Local Education Investment Act, also known as the Rapid Growth School District Act. A joint resolution to support that will be voted on by both the Rutherford County School Board and the County Commission, requesting the governor and our county state delegation to fund and pass into law the Tennessee Local Education Capital Investment Act. This proposed legislation, once passed in law, will assist Rutherford County with funding much-needed capital projects throughout the county and the school system. I think on the resolution, you can look back there, I think it was a percent of growth over 5 years, and you can see some estimated funding that we would get as a system there. Now, last year, as we mentioned, this was put behind the budget, but we've already spoken to one of our delegates, one of our delegation, and they are going to help support it. And I think we've got at least 2 more that's coming in to speak with us. Hopefully 4 more.
You've got a copy of that resolution if you want to look it over before Thursday night.
Question for you. I know it was discussed, or someone had brought it up, as far as putting this resolution together of including or seeing if the city school board would want to join in with us on this. Has that been discussed with them, or?
I think we just discussed it, and we haven't spoken to anyone at the city board, no.
No, sir. Put it before you first. Put it before you folks first to see how you guys.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Mr. Chairman, I'm just wondering if maybe you might want to reach out to Mr. Campbell just to maybe kind of send it up the flagpole with them so they know that it's coming. I don't know that they tune into our
Be happy
specials
to.
every week, so
I'll do that tomorrow.
thank you.
Any other comments? Insurance update.
Well, we have on October the 18th from 3 to 7 p.m. our wellness fair that we have annually. It'll be over at the Lane Ag Center, so go over and get your points ready for the following year. And then OMADA that we talked about briefly last time, the pre-diabetes software that they have online, they're looking at moving that to the next level. So the health committee has looked at it, and there may be a possibility of something that our employees may take advantage of in the future.
Dr. Anthony, didn't they, I think they talked too about something new that they're doing at the health fair now, that they're going to have online enrollment stations set up where employees can actually go ahead and do their open enrollment work online.
Right, they said they were going to try to set up something different, maybe some different booths for laptops, and then have them to have access to get their 3 points there at the fair.
I like that. I think that was great, so thank you.
Okay. Director's update.
Thursday.
Okay. Ms. Johnson, you have anything on Tennessee?
Thursday.
Ms. Sharp?
Well, Ms. DeVos released a new program today called Freedom Scholarships with the corporations, and I want to study up on it a little bit more before I talk about it, so it'll be Thursday.
Thank you. Okay, general discussion. You got John Coleman Annex on here.
We do. I'll just set Mr. Lee up here. We've been looking at some things in order to address some space for some of our alternative schools. We knew that the annex existed there, so I asked Mr. Lee to go and first of all find out what the capacity would be. Currently, we house hands-on science, also known as STEM, and also Head Start. Cumberland Head Start, Mid-Cumberland Head Start, right?
Yes, sir.
So I'm going to let Mr. Lee take it from there.
Presently, there's approximately 22 classrooms at what we call the John Coleman Annex. Now it's the original John Coleman School. If you go back to your capital projects list from last year and the one that I gave you last week and is part of Mr. Beaudry's packet, you'll see 3 projects in there that are listed John Coleman Annex. One is plumbing, one is HVAC, and one is roofing. Whether we make this move or don't make this move, we're going to have to do this work if we're going to continue to use this facility, which it appears, based on our current growth, we are. If we're going to make this kind of an investment, basically half the classrooms are being utilized by Cumberland Head Start at no cost benefit to us. In other words, they don't pay rent. We pay the utilities, we pay everything for them. On the other side, we have STEM, what used to be hands-on science, and it moved from Walter Hill down to there, and they use about 5 to 6 rooms. Then we've got food service there, and the nurses have, nurses on that end have taken a space, and it's just grown on its own. Right now, Smyrna West can conservatively hold around 100 to 115 students. With the new laws that we're under, they're going to be probably at or over capacity the majority of the time. That being said, we could hold 400 students at John Coleman. We looked at one side of the building is really set up for because it was an middle school at one time. It could be middle or high school students, doesn't really matter. The other side is more set up for elementary. It has a bathroom and a sink and those kind of things in there, but you still could use it for high school. The old John Coleman kitchen is still there. It's fully operational. Food service has kept it intact. They've been using it as a test kitchen. The cafeteria is about half the size that it was, and that could be reworked there again. So the potential is there. Smyrna West is overcrowded, and they've got as many portables as they do classrooms. Let me also jump in there too. Talking to Ms. Kozabowski and Ms. Page too, we were thinking, obviously, we've got issues in our earlier grades. We're getting students in, and they're being served under IDEA that are coming to us out of facilities and things of that nature where we could have a step-down approach for them prior for them getting into the classrooms, because we do, we're having a lot of incidents that are occurring. I think it's pretty obvious and common around our teaching, our teachers, where things are happening. Perhaps maybe we could be a little bit more proactive if we had a area or a facility in this case where we could have a step-down approach. When they come out, they stay here for a certain amount of time, and then we transition them back into our schools. And quite frankly, we're seeing a rise in violent behavior out of elementary school kids. We don't mix those with our middle and high school, but I think this facility would provide some opportunities that either we're going to face now or somewhere down in a very near future where we're going to have to seek that. And one of the things
when we look at, as far as special ed is concerned, when we look at the availability of facilities or institutions, it's very limited, quite frankly, and it's very limited, and I think we could eventually grow the capacity of something like this where we could do in-house, which would save us some money somewhat. It's not about just saving money, but perhaps maybe we could do it a little bit better than what we currently are having to work with. Is there anything, Ms. Kozabowski, you'd want to add to what I've already said?
No, I think you said it very eloquently. I think what we're seeing with a lot of our elementary students is that they're DCS foster care kids. A lot of them are being transported for a very long distance, and they're waiting on home placement. They've disrupted several placements from DCS, and they're coming out of hospital-type settings and landing in our very large elementary schools, and often don't have completed evaluations. So we're in process of completing those evaluations to provide the needed services that these students, their needs are showing us that they require in order to access education.
Anybody else?
Mr. Director, I have a question. And I don't know if this would be for Director Spurlock or for Mr. Lee, but whoever, if I'm, and I want to make sure I'm understanding it correctly because this question may or may not make sense, but we're talking about using that annex possibly for overflow from Smyrna West. Is that correct?
No, it would be to move Smyrna West to John Coleman.
One side of it.
One side of it.
Okay. So then my question would be, because this is an elementary school, what are we going to do to protect the safety and security of those elementary school students when we've got middle and high school students in the same area from the...
I'll answer that. If you've been to the, have you had the opportunity to be at the
I have, but it's been a while.
Yeah, it's two separate wings. Now, there's a common hallway that's with the front office. That wouldn't be very difficult at all. We could even put a entranceway there between the two.
We can separate the two. Most of those younger children probably would not be going to the annex, to the cafeteria to eat. They would, more than likely, their food, they would be fed in their space. So we could, it would be easily cordoned off to keep the Smyrna West students from interacting with the others.
I think that would be really critical that we have something like that set up and in place before we make that.
We would have to make it work. If we could not do that, it wouldn't work.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
I may, so if we're going to move the Smyrna West students there, what are we going to do with the Smyrna West building?
Well, there's been some conversation, but we'd probably move Cumberland Head Start and STEM up there. Just basically do a swap. If we wanted to continue to house and pay for Cumberland Head Start.
Do we know, is there a cost to us for that? How much that cost is?
My guess at this point would be half the janitorial services, half the bug service, and half the utilities for John Coleman Annex presently today. I couldn't get, Mr. Beaudry can give you those numbers, but they've basically got half the facility.
Would you like those numbers Thursday night, ma'am?
If you could give could you give an estimate?
I can get an estimate by Thursday night.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else on general discussion? Okay, we're adjourned.